I spent 20 years in the Texas legislature, was first elected in 1993. In the year 2005, the Speaker of the House called me in. I was made chairman of the Corrections Committee. I asked him, well, Mr. Speaker, what do you want me to do? And he looked at me and gave me the 8 words that changed my life. He says, don't build new prisons, they cost too much.
The state of Texas is currently spending $2 billion of your tax money to build the biggest prison system in the free world.
In the early 80s, we had 30,000 prison beds, and then all of a sudden by 2005, we have 155,000. So our prison projection, January 2007, we would need to add 17,332 beds by 2012.
We needed to spend enough money to build 3 additional prisons. The construction of the prisons, the maintenance, the staff, the correctional officers, the food, the medical care.
Over 5 years, that's $2 billion.
Texas was sort of like on the crossroads.
Well, I realized this was Texas, and I realized that Texas has a reputation of being tough on crime, and it probably wasn't going to sell well with any of our public if we would open the door and let them out. So I can't build anymore. What do I do?
If I put your right foot forward for those addicts, alcoholics that are still out there suffering, hopes they may find their way into rooms like this one day. Let this group represent what we can do together, what we cannot do apart with the help of whose Father?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
My name is Herbert Steptoe. I was born and raised in a little town called Navasota, Texas, and I moved to Houston in 1973. I've been with my wife. We're going into our 30th year together, and then these are the 2 daughters. I went to work right after I finished high school, and I left that job to enroll to go into the Air Force. You know, I started using it when I was in junior high school. And after getting out of the military, I came back to Houston. There was marijuana use on the job and alcohol use. And I went through that period, struggled through that, but still maintained, working, a working, functioning addict, alcoholic per se. When the crack cocaine came around, the use started to affect me, and for my decision making, that really put me at my lowest.
We have over 150,000 people in the prisons of Texas. We have a lot of them that are there for very serious offenses, but we have a large percentage of them that are there for drug-related crimes, drug-related possessions. And so can we do something about those to keep us from having to build more prisons?
When I had my incident with the criminal justice system, and this was my first offense, I had never had any criminal cases before prior to that. To avoid a year and a half or almost 2 years in the prison system, they sent me to the 9-month treatment program. At the time, I thought it was wrong. I was being railroaded in the system, but I look back, that had to have been the best thing that happened for me.
If I send them to prison, nothing's going to change. They're going to go there. They're probably going to learn better on how to sell dope if that's what they're doing. They're probably going to learn a few other ways to escape detection if they're buying dope. And when they get out, they're going to go right back to it. You put them in prison, it's costing you $50 a day. If I work with them on probation, I'm working with them for somewhere between $7 and $15 a day. Much lower cost, much better result. And at the end of the year, I've got a guy who's not going to commit any more crimes, as opposed to at the end of the year, I'm letting somebody out who I know is going to go on a crime binge. Completely different approaches, completely different results.
I learned about the disease of addiction. I learned how people's behaviors, attitudes, and their thinking have them in the situations that they're in. February the 1st, I'll have 13 years clean and sober, haven't used or went back out at all. That was amazing to me, is I felt like I was a special case because they offered those things to me when I saw other individuals didn't have that opportunity.
So when you compare how much money it costs to send somebody to treatment, which would be $3,500 approximately a year versus $18,000 a year, you start realizing that the more effective and humane approach is drug treatment versus incarceration.
We worked on more drug treatment programs. We put more additional funding available for mental health. Those are the things we did in 2007.
When you provide those various options, then I think you have enhanced public safety
in the short and the long term, and you've done it in a cost-efficient fashion.
Your principle is coming up here, fighting waste, fighting corruption, returning savings back to the taxpayer. Those are your principles, so you don't violate your principles.
Soft on crime, tough on crime. Any of the legislators from whatever side they were at realized that what they were doing was right on crime.
The crime rate in Texas dropped 8.45%. The incarceration rate dropped 1.45%. We lowered the number of people in prison and crime went down even more. That's because we're approaching it differently. So they were expecting to add 17,000 people. We didn't add those 17,000 people, and then we lowered it enough that they closed a prison.
The first time in history Texas was able to close a prison.
We've saved $2 billion. That's B as in big, 2 billion, not million, $2 billion, which is huge in a state budget.
Which is good for those of us on the right because it gives us an opportunity to go home and say, you know, we saved money and we're achieving a level of safety also.
We know what works, we know that it can be done. Now it's just a matter of continuing on this path. We still have a long way to go.
We're looking at this coming session, a major reform to our state jail system. We need to look at our sentencing laws and also look at improving reentry.
The legislature needs to use the institutional knowledge, look at what they've done in the past, and keep doing it.
In corrections, everybody can come to the table. The faith-based, the budget cutters, the bleeding hearts.
Chairman Madden unfortunately has retired and somebody's got to pick it up where he left it.
I would say to the new legislator, since I'm not going to be there, I would say that you need to continue the course we were on. Don't build new prisons because they do cost too much.